All right, it's 6:30, so we'll open up the meeting and start with approval of last month.
I have a series of approvals. First, the minutes of the regular meeting held on April 20th, 2026. Motion in a second.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Jamie. Sorry, Joe, you already got beat by Kelly. Seconded by Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. I have two resolutions for James and Courtney Alexander on Linden Road. First is a resolution approving an area variance of 1 foot 4 inches for a single side yard setback of 10 feet 8 inches on the south side of the principal structure.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Jamie,
Second.
second by Max. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. Same property, James and Courtney Alexander. This resolution is an approval of an area variance of 2 feet 11 inches for a total side yard setback between both side yards, 29 feet 1 inch.
Make a motion.
Motion by Jamie,
Second.
second by Max. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Finally, I have two resolutions for Michael McCracken and the Hospitality Restaurant Group. This is the new Taco Bell. 5840 Bridge Street. First resolution is for approval of an area variance for one mobile pickup parking sign to be 6.5 feet above grade.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Jamie,
Second.
second by Max. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Last but not least, same application, Taco Bell at 5840 Bridge Street. This is approval of an area variance for one attached building sign on the south building facade that does not have an access drive. Motion by Jamie, I heard you, Joe. Joe's gonna get the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. What is it?
They go back. That's done on the 20th.
It was. So.
So. Anandale National Bank, that's a resolution to approve an attached sign on a building facade that does not have street access drive. It's one over by Wegmans. There a motion and a second to approve. Moved by Joe, second by Max, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you, Julie. First case.
Okay. First case is Ironhorn Enterprise.
I'm gonna read the notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given pursuant to section 267-A of the New York State Town Law that a public hearing will be held by the zoning board of appeals of the town of DeWitt, New York. Town offices, 5400 Butternut Drive, East Syracuse, New York, on Monday, May 18th, 2026 at 6:35 p.m. Concerning the premises situated at 6970 Schuyler Road, tax map parcel ID 017-05022. Schuyler Road Holdings LLC owner in an industrial zoning district. Specific relief requested by the applicant. An area variance to allow for a landscape buffer of 2 feet at all property lines. Section 192-100E3 and the town of DeWitt Planning Board. Design guidelines require a landscape buffer of at least 20 feet at the front property line and at least 10 feet at the side and rear property lines. And for such additional relief as may be necessary or appropriate, that's dated May 7th, 2026. For purposes of seeker, the town is declaring lead agency for the purposes of seeker. This is an unlisted action for a commercial area variance. There are no negative environmental impacts associated with the proposed action. Onondaga County Planning Board is not required. Is that right? Is that a distance?
Yes, there's no distance to county or state.
No distance to county or state. And how about planning board recommendation? Is that in file?
Yes.
And that's all for me. Greg, go ahead and have you later.
Go back to the site plan real quick. I'll give you a quick overview on what we're asking for. Currently, the building is existing. We're making some modifications relative to the driveway that goes around, some fencing and modifying the parking in the front. Existing, there is parking from here to about here, wraps around this pole, but it's in this area. And we had a previously approved site plan, which I think everybody kind of missed, the 20-foot buffer, which had the same parking but rotated this way. So with doing this, we want to put parking in the front, expanded where it was with some bank parking here. But in order to do that, we're gonna be a little more of an encroachment in that 20-foot buffer than previously. We are trying to maintain a little bit as much as we can, so we've got an extra 2-foot buffer here. So we're really only asking for an 18-foot buffer, and where in these areas here, that 20-foot buffer is being maintained. So being that it's an existing building, you know, I can go through 5 criteria. Neighborhood character is basically the same as what's there, because maybe a little bit expanded, but not really much different. If anything, I think we're pulling this parking way a couple of feet.
This is right by the Erie Links
No,
course, this
No.
property.
this is behind UPS. It's kind of an industrial zone. I mean, right across the street is just massive UPS.
Gotcha.
Employees, so. Alternative, we really don't have a good alternative. The only other good alternative is put the parking over here, which puts it quite a distance away from the front door. Not ideal for retail, not ideal for ADA compliance, that sort of thing. So for those reasons, this is a better solution. And it's a safer solution. So is it substantial? It's basically the same as the existing, little increased, but essentially the same as the existing. There is no other real structure on this street, so this is really it. There's a lot of woods and stuff like that. Residents, its immediate area, there's some around the corner, but you know, quite a ways, 200 feet. Environmental and physical impact is the same whether we do it here, or whether we do it here, we put the parking over here. It's essentially going to be the same environmental impact. We are mitigating, there's a tree that we are taking down in this general location here, and we're mitigating it by beefing up trees and additional landscaping in the area. And the 5th one is a self-created, not really, because of the building and the site, the majority of the site anyways predates the code. So it's really something that we're going to be forced to squeeze into the code as best as we can. Any questions?
So the dark road is the new proposed. Right,
Well, the dark road is a new proposed, and so is this here. There's some parking here, there's a driveway in this area, and then parking over here, which is really not functional. But this exists, it's a new road there, ramp, and this here is for both parking.
Do you have something?
Yes, sir.
Did you say your name? Can you say your name? Just for
Russell Archer, 6490 Badgley Road, and my property is just north of the new driveway.
Yep.
What's the buffer gonna be on the north of the driveway?
Well, so if you scroll down, please.
Sit on this one. Correct.
other way.
So we're trying to look up there. Yeah. So here is that drive lane is right here. I believe your residence is way up here. Right about here. So that is probably somewhere around maybe.
This is Dave's neighbor.
Pull up an aerial.
So you're keeping the 20-foot setback on that side?
We're not touching, we're trying to
Oh,
touch
okay.
as few trees as possible. There's a ditch that,
Well, they
we're trying to
worry
keep
about
there.
Runoff.
It's not a setback, it's just a landscape buffer.
Yeah.
Different than a setback, so the setbacks
Yeah.
aren't going to the line, it's just the buffering.
Well, the amount of water there, everything's gonna flow in his yard and my yard.
And our yard is already,
Yeah, I mean, it's just standing water back there now.
I'm all for helping some business, any kind of business, but
you can go back to the site plan, I can show you some of the stuff that we're doing to help mitigate it.
So. Oh, yeah, if we go back. I'm not gonna. We're not against anything,
No, you're
alright?
fine,
So
you're fine.
this is myself and I own this all the way back to here. All this is actually standing water most of the year.
Yep.
I mean, we're just worried about adding an additional pavement, just gonna create. Something's gotta be done with.
So
take care of it.
what we're doing is we're that road comes there to this. Right here,
Yeah.
There's a detention basin going in here. What's actually the town is making us do is over detain, so. We're detaining everything for the entire site back down to a 10-year storm, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah,
So they're trying to keep the Lake Creek watershed, trying to get it. Because a lot of development happened years and years and years ago that has increased flooding. So
Yeah.
instead of like your typical, we've got to mitigate the 100-year storm, the 100-year storm, 10-year storm, the 10-year storm.
yeah, this is
We
all,
gotta get
this,
the 100-year storm down to 10 years.
right, this is all a drainage swale.
Yeah.
And it's every rainstorm it fills
Yeah,
up.
it's right here. It's right here. You can see it
No,
right there.
well, that's the old ditch, and they filled that in. Like, this is covered as a pipe underneath it, right, that going out. But everything over here is, it's a swamp, basically, been filled in.
That's fine.
And that was my.
This is my house right here. Okay, and as you can see, it's pie shaped. But right here is the pumping station for the sewage, right there. Now we're gonna put a bigger building in. Be pumped into that station and pumped away. We've had to cancel several barbecues because of the order from that pumping station. I used to have a number to call, his name was Mike. He blamed it on DeWitt. Town of DeWitt blamed Mike for not doing his job. So I called the supervisor's office. He wants to know why I'm calling him. Who else do I call? When that odor down there is already pretty bad. It's raw sewage. All day long. You can't, when the wind's blowing the other way, we're fine. When it's not, it's pretty bad. And now we're trying to put a bigger building in and make more waste.
The building is not getting any bigger. I'm not sure how many employees they had before versus how many we have now. I can't tell you that. So I can't tell you there's more sewage going. Typically, if you're getting a smell from that sewage pump station, it's not working frequently.
100% agree with
So the
that.
more people actually, it helps because then it cycles it more often. Otherwise, that's why you get the old, because it sits there. and-
Well, Mike kinda did.
You know what I'm saying?
Mike kind of did not say that. He said that the problem was they were having was the town of DeWitt supplying the chemicals.
I don't know if they're putting chemicals in
I don't
there. They shouldn't have to put chemicals in there.
Well,
Guys, I'm not sure this is
Come on,
related
don't-
to pumping station, you know, it's not, this is a landscape buffer variance. I don't think anything is really changing outside of the landscape buffer.
I
He
understand.
says he's putting in a detention pond to actually help the
The water.
drainage situation, so it should be improved based on what it is now.
I agree.
Is my read on it, yeah.
What are we gonna do with that?
It's all different, you can call the supervisor for all this help.
I couldn't get that approved.
Yeah, I agree.
Thanks, guys.
I'm good. Thank you for the explanation, Eric.
Is there a retention pond?
Yes. Yeah, so if we go to the site plan,
The site plan.
detention pond is right here. This entire area.
Can you,
That's new.
That's new, yeah.
You gonna stop that with
there's
bats?
nothing northerly of the building right now.
No, other than this ditch, which we are gonna pipe all the way from here to here, which will help water flow a little bit better. And maybe clean that out a little bit, you know, see what that looks like, but like I said, the water runoff is going to be mitigated now.
What's the blue, what's the bright blue?
Bank Park.
The Bacon Park.
Yeah, represent Bank Park.
Park.
For future.
For later,
So if they need it bigger.
keeping it green for now.
In case we need it. You know, it's per code. This is what's going in here is anybody's familiar with like gypsum, wholesalers, sheet rock insulation, that sort of stuff. This is mainly a warehouse from here back. This is a little retail thing here. They've got maybe 70 employees of that, between forklift drivers for the warehouse and front-end people. And that's what the previous time we put this ramp in here, then they realized it's really hard to get 18-wheelers out. So this here is really gonna be utilized to get 18-wheelers out, and also to bring them in here and over here and unload them in here, to help mitigate some of the congestion.
So the parking in front is for handicap, the front entrance is on that face of the road.
So there's a couple of handicap spaces here, and then the rest of it is for retail. So somebody like me might go like to a gypsum wholesale, order some stuff for delivery, that sort of thing. And or if you're gonna be picking it up, you come back here and they load it up for you. So it's those kinds of, it's that kind of a dual function facility. So there's some retail, where you can go in here, order it, and they deliver it, or you go here, order it, pick it up over here. That's what I think.
Was there another solution that was explored in lieu of the request? I mean, that you've got property to the up page and down page. I don't know whether.
Well, down page is hard because there isn't, by the time you try to get 18-wheelers and stuff in here, there's really not much maneuvering, you really don't like having these backing up where there's trucks maybe coming around, that sort of thing. But, we could, if we had to put parking over here, it's not the most ideal.
Where are you gonna put snow in the winter?
Oh, it'll probably dump it in here, which will float them. Basically. So anything in here, is gonna flow into there. They are gonna use a fractured parking space.
So you're gonna move the snow down the drive, including the parking lot. We're not gonna push it toward the road at all.
No, I don't see that. Like across the street. And if it is, it'd be a minimal amount because they can't get turned around. But no, I mean, I would never imagine if they would push this all.
Well, I wasn't so concerned with that.
Here.
I'm really just looking at the request and for relief. So
We're to be pushing this over to here.
yes,
And my gut feeling is if they're smart, they're gonna come in here, shove this over here and then push it that way, if there's a fraction like a corner here, they might push that way, but. They're not gonna be that much room. By the time you plow the road in there and the parking lot in there, you got snowbanks that are gonna. Pretty high. I can't imagine they would.
Questions?
Motions. So just to be sure we fully address the gentleman's concerns regarding runoff. When you say that all water will flow towards that retention basin, that's within the entire paved area. It'll be paved to run towards the building as opposed to.
What we had to do is, so we can't get this water to run in there, but we can get all the roof water running there. This runs in there. This runs in there, and then it's over the T. So what we can do is let's say we take this whole area right here, this whole area paved, dumps out 10 CFS. Okay. But we can't get this 3-4 CFS in there. We choke this down enough so that this here doesn't even slope. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's not directly related to the gentleman's concern regarding adding impermeable surface north of the building, but I understand the explanation. It's all surface, right? No catch basins, no.
There's some catch base.
There are.
Yep.
So does this road have a curve to the north?
No.
Okay.
No, there is curbing at the entrances, but not that whole road. It all depends on where it's pitched.
I'm not concerned about the amount of water hitting the crown of the road and running to the north, but I just think, to say it will all within the limits of the site run south, I don't think that's entirely true, only that, you know. Anything that hits center line of that road will go north. Whether or not it's gonna significantly contribute to their issue, I don't think so.
Oh, there's a swale that runs along the outside of that road,
Yeah, there's a swale.
cuts it off, brings it back.
Not shown.
Nah, the grade, it's not the grading
I don't know
plan.
if it's got the-
Alright, well, that would be, that's helpful to understand.
Plan, talking about.
Sure.
Grade.
No,
Yeah, so we weren't tracking this.
understood. Helpful to know, thanks. Yep, all set.
Options?
I'll make.
Two. Motion by Joe, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Kelly, a motion by Joe to approve the. Landscape buffer area variance, seconded by Kelly. Approve an area variance to allow for landscape buffer area of 2 feet at all property lines. Let's go through the criteria. Will there be an undesirable change produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by granting this variance?
No, it's pretty industrial. Neighborhood. Area.
So the water's gonna drain it, right? So,
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there has been discussion of residents in the area, we're concerned about the drainage. But we've talked about improvements to sewage draining that should alleviate those pollutants.
Don't say student, stormwater.
Sorry.
Well, they said.
some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than variance?
Make that clear.
No. I'm gonna take no if they want a landscape buffer of 2 feet.
Well, they could park somewhere else, and walk further.
Right.
I think that's the point Shane's getting towards.
So request very substantial.
Yes.
Yes.
18 feet, yeah.
There'd be an effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood district.
No.
The difficulty self-created.
Yes.
Alright, motion made by Joe, second by Kelly to approve an area variance to allow for landscape buffer area feet at all property lines pursuant to section 193-100 feet of the DeWitt Town Code. Do a roll call, member Della Posta.
Just front
It's just the,
just front setback.
Oh, just front property line. I'm making a change in my motion. 2 feet at
And
the
it's
front
just-
property line.
and it's just for that parking area is all that was recommended.
There's that front part there, of the street.
Yeah, right where the, right here. This is the only spot that they are looking for is recommended by the board.
That's fine, so.
Okay. Motion made by Joe, second by Kelly to approve an area variance to allow for landscape buffer area of 2 feet at the front property line pursuant to section 192-100 B3 of the DeWitt Town Code. Roll call, member Della Posta.
Yes.
Member Perrin,
Yes.
member Trevette,
No.
member Warbeck,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cornfeld. Chairperson O'Connor.
Yes.
All right, Greg, passes 5-1. Congratulations.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a great night.
But
Good luck with it.
There is a bit about two.
Oh, yeah, we don't.
See the other application. All right.
Yeah, right.
Thank you. Have a great night. Thank you for coming in.
the next application is 3350 Erie Boulevard. Area variance, I don't see it.
There's someone online.
Oh.
And so.
Hello.
I'm closing this door with that very much. Adam, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. I'm gonna read the notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given pursuant to section 267A of the New York State Town Law that a public hearing opened on March 16, 2026, tabled by the zoning board of appeals, will be continued by the zoning board of appeals at the town of DeWitt, New York, town offices 5400 Butternut Drive, East Syracuse, New York, Monday, May 18, 2026 at 6:40 P.M. The matter concerning the premises situated at 3350 Erie Boulevard East, tax map parcel ID 048030041. 3350 Erie Boulevard LLC, owner in a business zoning district. Specific relief requested by the applicant is an area variance to allow a parking space reduction of 19 spaces for a total of 13 parking spaces, where DeWitt Town Code Section 192-103D requires a minimum of 32 parking spaces, and for such an additional relief as may be necessary and appropriate, dated May 7th, 2026. At the last meeting, we already went over the planning board recommendation and the Onondaga County referral. There was a lot of discussion amongst the board, and now we're resuming. So Adam, go ahead and.
Yeah, so Adam Richardson here, representing Nashwan Ahmed, the owner of the building and of the deli property business. It's a tough site. We really can't fit much, especially after the DOT regulations. Planning board said we can get one handicap parking space in the front of the building, and then along the other side of the south side of the building, all that parking had to be removed, so we can't have any accessible parking for the second floor of the building. The board asked that we reach out to Econo Lodge to use their parking for overflow. They have said no, so we can't get any of their parking because of the constraints of the site and just a lot of the grade changes. We can't get any accessible parking for the future second floor tenant as of now. We feel as though we've dealt with the site the best we can with the planning board and zoning board requests for the last 6 or 7 months, and we're hoping that we can get this approved so that the business owner can start construction and start getting business to pay for his mortgage.
Got a letter up regarding, could we talk about that letter? One of the biggest sticking points in our last meeting was regarding ADA clients. It looks like somebody submitted a letter to speak to that. And could we get a Reader's Digest version of this?
Oh, basically, it's kind of what I said, that, the existing building, like it says there, the vertical offset, if we were able to get any type of handicap parking on the back portion of the site, it would be above the threshold for cost compared to the construction to create any type of accessible parking for the 20% rule. Basically what I already said about, DOT's requirements, we can't get any side entry from those existing parking off the side road, not off of Erie Boulevard. Yeah, we've been trying to work with the site as best as we can. That's essentially it. Just we do have the staircase that you guys requested for parking from the back all the way to the front. But creating any type of accessible handicap ramp would just cost considerable amount, too much concrete to deal with this, site.
So the first, in your application, you talk about that there's ground floor housing. Is there?
There is no ground floor housing.
So it's the deli and a takeout experience and then later a barber shop?
Yep. As of now, he doesn't have a tenant, but it should be a future barbershop, correct? Yeah, no, there may have been an apartment on considered the second floor. So the ground floor that you see, the north signage photo, that is the deli, the future deli. The east signage is where we would have had any accessible parking, but DOT stated we cannot have any parking coming off of there. And so the rear parking lot is going to be our main parking spaces, including a dumpster enclosure as well. And we're just trying to seek the variance because of the site constraints, and it's been vacant for so long, we're not sure if anything, short of maybe just, an office that we could be able to meet any type of parking requirements.
So last time we talked about ADA, I brought up the issue. I didn't understand, and we were told it was gonna be storage on the second floor.
Right,
This narrative differs from what we heard previously.
Always been talking about a barber shop. Access on the side.
Okay.
No, on the third,
Storage.
on the uppermost level,
Oh, third floor, okay. Well, this is the third floor we're looking at currently, right? Is it not?
right?
Or the-
The third floor with that Adam in the back, or was the third floor?
It's kind of that weird gable space. That storage, no work section right on the left side above or below the ground floor plan.
Okay, so I think there used to be a house, it's part of a house, that structure was there before.
Yeah, and the owner doesn't want anything to do with residential. He just wants to have it be storage. But he, to save on costs, he just doesn't want to demolish anything as of now.
Well, I'm gonna go back, and my understanding coming away from the last meeting was if you went up a flight of stairs from the Erie Boulevard level, the area above that, whether it's a mid, half light or whatever it is, was storage.
That's what I understood too.
same.
That's
Yeah.
what, yeah,
It sounds like now there's gonna be 3 potential businesses, correct?
right, which
Was not.
that's not permissible. But
They've only been talking about 2 right now.
Yeah, we only have 2.
But again, I don't see how they're getting handicap access to that second level.
They're not.
We can't.
They're not.
It's not feasible. It is impossible to get it with the 20% threshold of cost to be able to have an accessible path. We did have it, but DOT, and when I discussed with the planning board, if you go to the site plan, we have to just hash it off. It's just non-parking. It's just not possible.
Well, it is, it's just a significant cost to gain access to the set
They
level.
already changed. And
I
on the
understand.
side, the parking they were originally showing on the side is all in the town right away.
I understand that.
So my question is about that west part or the top of that building. There's a steel guard rail and there's some space between it and the building. Is there any way to put more parking up there?
So you're talking about like putting parking where the words existing concrete stairs are?
Yeah,
I don't think, if anything, it would just give us more backing up space, but I don't think we would be able to, unfortunately.
So the thing to do to deal with the grade is the ramp east across the page. In lieu of the current set of stairs, starting from the rightmost corner, ramping left. Then down. I would imagine you could make up the grade that way, it's possible. Even if you had to do a switchback, it's certainly possible.
I'm sure it could be possible, but what we're saying is that it would cost more than 20% threshold compared to the small renovation of the deli that the owner is trying to do.
I'm still.
So,
not clear
seeing how he's just working on for the first floor, his own tenant space, if he gets someone in for the second floor, that could be a more viable option.
I
For
think
right
if you
now,
get-
for his space, we do have the one parking space in the front on the Erie Boulevard side.
Going to propose to we only originally approve it with a caveat that they can't do anything with that the second level space, that because it doesn't have handicap access. I don't understand how, this will still have to go before our building official for approval, code plan approval. But they're asking for a variance based on this, and with their current plan that they're describing, it doesn't mean we'd be approving something that's not legal.
I mean, I believe, Adam, is that in the state code, the 20% cost, where does that come from?
It's in our letter to the board.
No, I know, but where is that? Is that part of the state code where that's,
They said to.
it's not a requirement that exceeds 20%?
If you can open up the board, I can't remember all the code numbers offhand. Apologize.
It's 48 CFR, which would be the building issue. I haven't read it.
Not sure that you can require it to be ADA, but it certainly plays a role in your. It certainly plays a role in your analysis, whether it's.
Well, they're asking us to approve a variance. If we weren't being asked to approve a variance, I'd have no problem with it. That strictly falls to the building.
Once you're asked to approve the variance, it's under your purview.
Right, so.
Our code enforcement officer who's online just texted me and said, state specifically allows no accessibility upgrades if the upgrades exceed 20% of the project.
No accessibility upgrades.
That's what he's saying.
So he's saying he doesn't have to comply.
Yeah,
They don't
that's what
need-
you're saying right there.
They don't need that.
Derek's muted.
Derek, do you mind talking for a second?
Hi, this is Derek.
Hey,
Yes,
Derek.
that's correct.
Well, I don't know what the value.
I mean, it seems obvious to me that making that site accessible for handicap access would be not necessarily prohibitively expensive, but based on the cost of the project that they're proposing, it would be well above the 20% threshold.
20% of the total project cost just for the changes for ADA. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, okay. I agree. I don't think we're looking at ADA. Based on that.
I still have the concern that once there's two businesses there, that's just not enough parking.
It's a significant parking variance. I mean, it's huge variance. It's. And I understand the need to improve this property, but
I think the uses are the biggest contributor too. They're both high turnover businesses.
it could change.
But to your point regarding it not being enough, I mean, a deli and a barber shop.
This, just to help with the ramp, the slope of the ramp, because it'd be a 7-foot grade change, it would have to be an 84-foot ramp. I just don't even know if that would even fit.
That's what I was talking about, a return ramp.
Yeah. But 84 feet, that's substantial, and it would also cause drainage issues with that side of the building.
That would be
It
more
would just be a lot.
Is there nowhere else to get more parking? It just seems like there's not enough space.
Right,
There isn't.
that's why we asked them to look at the hotel across the
So to
street,
get something else, but
but there isn't another
if the
option.
two uses are successful, there's definitely not enough parking.
I guess-
That's what I keep thinking.
I guess I'm a little thrown by the fact that now there was another tenant, which I was clearly under the impression that. But out of dialogue last time that there was not another tenant planned for that upper level, and so on that. On that point, I was. More agreeable to approving this because we had provided some handicap parking in the front. And there was no,
Right,
so.
I agree, I feel like,
We've had both tenants listed because the planning board requested that we have a plan for the second. So the owner of the building said potentially future barber shop, but I don't know. So that's why we put it on there. We've been planning to just have the one tenant space. That's all he wants right now. So it was upon planning board's request that we add a second because it was a
Right, but we're talking about a
tenant building.
Not 1 and 2.
right, cause isn't there two, a deli and then something else, correct? Another dining takeout experience was how it
That's
worked,
part of the deli.
but it's two separate. I mean, am I wrong?
Just the deli.
That's part of the deli.
I think you're, because you also did 3180 at the same time, it was 3350, and that was the two. They came in for their height variance, and those were gonna be two
Separate.
Yeah.
Would the applicant just tell us how many tenants are proposed?
We said
Two.
one, but two.
But one, I mean,
He said one is
all he wants to
potential.
do is start, we have one real tenant, it's the owner of the building, he wants to open a deli.
Get the variance and figure it out later. That's what
Right.
it
Sounds like
that's
you're
what it
not
sounds like to me.
positive yet, but
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to like signage and things, we need to know if it's a multi-tenant building or a single tenant building, so we've been trying to get them to.
How many tenants can there be in the space? Two, one or two?
Two.
Or three?
Two.
Just two. Can only ever be two.
I don't know.
It's not clear.
What's the estimated cost of the renovation?
I don't have it on me, let me see if I have my notes.
I think we should have that information so we can fairly assess.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I submitted that, I think back in September, I don't remember.
Don't see why that.
Well,
I just
curious
think
on
that I just think the plan is speculative and absent knowing what the second business could be or would be. I don't know how we can evaluate a parking reduction when we don't know what your turnover for parking is gonna be in the space that we're discussing. I understand you have one solid business coming now, but that business is a deli and a takeout experience, which means you're gonna have high volume turnover in your parking, and then you add something else to that. And I don't, depending on what that is, you could get really jammed up parking wise, and there's no, and we've already given you the variance, which would be problematic, and there's no alternative proposed parking solution, so for those reasons, I guess I would make a motion.
Motion to deny by Kelly, is there a second?
I think the cost is relevant though. I'm really curious about what the proposed cost of the renovation is. Are we talking like 40K for some paint carpet, or are we talking about? I think it's quite a bit of side work here.
Table it again and ask for.
And I think the proposed cost of the second floor renovation is somewhat relevant too, because if they were to be done at the same time, then perhaps the ADA upgrades wouldn't be 20% of the total cost.
Correct.
But I don't know if the ADA is an issue.
We don't know it's an issue until you see the cost. Because that's the threshold, that's the threshold.
Appropriate measure.
Jamie's saying, no, let's take his word for it, we wanna see the costs, see what their ratio is, be shown that that's not proven threshold.
I'm just asking for evidence.
Yeah, that's what the applicant to prove his case, rather than stating, yes.
Well,
So you want
make a motion to
you want a
table
motion
it
to
and
table it?
request the
Yes.
additional information.
You wanna make a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table.
Motion to table from Jamie, is there a second to that?
Second.
Second by Josh. And what's the purpose? What are we asking the applicant to bring in?
Estimate of the.
Supporting documentation.
Okay, you guys don't have that anywhere in your files? Eric's not there?
No, when did you send this in to us, Adam, with your original site plan, you think?
It was back in September was my first emails with DeWitt, so I apologize, it's been a long time to remember these costs.
I'm looking through our files right now. I don't see it.
Yeah,
Do you think it was just part of the emailing with Eric or part of your submission?
yeah, I think originally I applied for permit, which is when he said I needed the planning board submission. Because if we were to move forward, I know that the owner would have to give you a signed contract showing the cost, and I think he was waiting for all of this to go through to get it.
What's the upstairs use currently or previously?
Looking at it from myself, from when we looked at the space, it looked like somebody probably using it as a apartment, but it was abandoned. So he just wanted to use it as storage because I told him that that wouldn't be feasible.
I'm not sure I'm for tabling it though, because I don't wanna waste time. If they come back and they give us a number, then I'm gonna deliberate again and then ultimately reject it on grounds that can be decided right now, then why?
Kelly made a motion to deny, no one else seconded it, so you can second Kelly's motion to deny.
I don't think I mean,
What are you gonna get from the applicant that's going to change your mind?
Well, I have concerns that are unrelated to the ADA or even the cost. I think put a deli on the first floor, people are inevitably gonna pull over and block the sidewalk. Can we bring up the site plan again? Just curious, maybe it's curved
One
and
parking space.
is it's probably grass, it's maybe prohibitive.
It's just.
Will that be paved or grass?
They're not supposed to park there. Right, oh,
They got one spot there.
Yeah, we have one parking space in the front,
One
and
spot,
then per the planning board, there's a stairwell right next to where it says concrete wall right above that, and that walkway goes all the way back up.
So is that grass, turf, yes, that area there.
The green is the grass, the crosshatch is just a non-parking.
But it'll be paved, but not parking? It'll be paved, parking prohibited.
Right.
Oh,
Correct.
well, it could end up just being parking too.
so it's not curved or it's just painted or?
Oh, it can be. Right now, it's existing granite at level.
Right now
Per the
it's-
planning board, they requested that we cross stripe it, saying no parking.
That's gonna fade, people are gonna
park there, especially in the winter. So,
yeah, it's not gonna be plowed as such, just this intricate 3-point turn. I don't know. But it's a real shame, none of us want a vacant building sitting there.
right, moving in. One tenant, I just say that one business. Because that's probably not sustainable. To possible. Right.
I mean, I would love the idea for the owner of the building to at least get approval for single tenant. That's what we originally went for. Planning board wanted to plan for a second tenant. I don't know. We've been trying. We've been working hard. We got rid of all the parking spaces. Worked with you guys in DOT to do our best. We've really been trying. We added the staircase. I just don't know what else we can do to make it feasible. I understand the concern about the parking in the front. I guess curbing could work. Additional curbing. In the back area, it just got honestly destroyed by all the turning radiuses, the dumpster enclosure, the side parking getting removed by DOT. It's just, we were at 20 something parking spaces in the beginning. There's like 7 in the front now, and it just, I honestly, if you deny it, I'm not sure if anybody with all these restrictions is going to want to buy it. So I don't know what would happen to the building other than just becoming a plot of dirt or just sitting there until it gets worse and worse. So I'm just asking on behalf of the owner just to work with them the best you can with one tenant, because otherwise this building's just going to sit. I'm just looking at it as someone that drives by Erie Boulevard every day, and it's just been a sad building,
I'd be willing to make a motion to approve the reduction in parking for one tenant.
With the condition that there only be one tenant.
What if we said one tenant, now if they want a second tenant, they have to come back to the board.
Right.
That way we can see other,
Can we
I'm
do
not
that?
prohibiting a second tenant,
So
but before you skip putting the second tenant, come back to the board and tell us other parties.
Can we do that?
is that the planning board or zoning board?
Then we have to come back.
It would have to come back anyway, so
Right.
by putting in the condition for only one tenant, you're already applying the rest of it. They're gonna have to come back if they want 2 tenants.
That I think is,
That I can,
I agree.
I'll even add in every applicant must require for approvals to have 2 tenants.
It's the best we can do.
We wish to operate simultaneously. So my drafter would be approved to approve an area variance for parking space reduction of 19 spaces for a total park count of 32 spaces, with the condition that the applicant may only have one operating tenant. Added,
On the level,
on what level?
right,
the first floor.
the first.
First,
Well,
yeah, ground floor from Erie Boulevard.
First floor / ground floor. Of the principal structure.
Right.
It must return to the planning board and zoning board for town approvals, yeah.
Additional tenants.
Yep.
Is it strictly tenants or uses too? Well, actually,
One tenant, one,
requesting a use. I just wonder if it did the same, for some reason, the
One-
same tenant.
one tenant with one
That
permitted
has
use,
two businesses, the same,
one tenant with one business.
correct, yes. That's why I make it clear, that's all.
Condition that the applicant can only have one tenant, one business on the first floor or ground floor of the principal structure. The applicant must return to the planning board and zoning board for town approval if they wish to have two or more tenants operating simultaneously at the property. I've got a motion made by Kelly, who seconded that?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Josh. Motion by Kelly, seconded by Josh to approve an area variance request for a parking space reduction of 19 spaces for a total parking count 13 spaces, with the condition that the applicant may only have one tenant, one business on the first floor, or ground floor of the principal structure. The applicant must return to the planning board, and zoning board for town with approvals if they wish to have two or more tenants operating simultaneously at the property. Two or more tenants and or businesses. I will go through the criteria.
I don't think simultaneous is necessary, but. leave it up to you.
Just doing it quickly. Is there be an undesirable change produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties created by granting the variance?
No,
No, although neighbors did express concerns with parking from the street and in front of their houses. And the planning board was sensitive to those concerns. For the zoning.
Or zoning board,
we sought to consider other solutions.
Yeah.
the applicant. Achieve, if the benefits sought by the applicant be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than a variance?
No.
This time.
Very unusual lot.
Yeah, no, that lot. Requested variance substantial?
Yes.
Yes.
Will there be an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? Same answer was the first one, right, the neighbors.
I think so.
Too much difficult and self-created.
Yes.
Okay, got a motion by Kelly, seconded by Josh to approve an area variance request for parking space reduction, 19 spaces for a total parking count of 13 spaces. With the condition that they can only have one tenant with one business on the ground floor, first floor of the principal structure. The applicant must return to the planning board and zoning board for town approvals if they wish to have two or more tenants and or businesses operating on the property. Call for roll call. Member Della Posta,
Yes.
member Perrin,
Yes.
member Trevette,
Yes.
member Warbeck,
Yes.
vice chair Cornfeld,
Yes.
chairperson O'Connor.
Yes.
All right, Adam, congratulations, 6-0.
Thank you.
Your
Appreciate it,
time.
guys.
Have a great night.
Thanks, Adam.
Take a.
Yeah, we need to.
Take a break, sure, and do you have the YouTube set up and everything? Want to pause?
I'm ready.
You're all ready? Let's just pause the recording for a couple minutes. Start again. Julie?
Yep.
Thank you. Okay, we're back on the record. Do you want to call the next case?
Yes. The next case is East Genesee Street interpretation.
I'm gonna read the notice of public hearing. I'll waive it. Notice is hereby given pursuant to section 267A of the New York State Town Law that a public hearing will be held by the zoning board of appeals of the town of DeWitt, New York, at the town offices, 5400 Butternut Drive, East Syracuse, New York, on Monday, May 18th, 2026, 6:45 p.m. Starting the premises situated on East Genesee Street, being more particularly identified as tax map parcel ID numbers 060.-06-01.2 and 060.-06-01.1, located in a residential 2 zoning district, and tax map parcel ID numbers 060.-06-02.0, 060.-06-04.1, 060.06-34.0, 060.06-35.0, located in a business transitional zoning district. Widewaters 4410 Genesee Street Company owner. Specific relief requested by the applicant is an interpretation of a determination made by the Department of Planning and Zoning dated March 24th, 2026, in regard to the department's application of DeWitt Town Code Section 192-112G, Sections 192-103A, 192-103E, and for such additional relief as may be necessary or appropriate. That's dated May 7th, 2026. For purposes of seeker, town is declaring lead agency for the purposes of seeker. This interpretation of the existing Town of DeWitt zoning code conducted by the Town of DeWitt Zoning Board of Appeals is a type 2 action pursuant to NYCRR Title 6, Section 617.5, subsection 37. As a type 2 action, directly pursuant to the statute, this action has already been determined not to have a significant impact on the environment or is otherwise precluded from environmental review under Environmental Conservation Law, Article 8. Now, in regard to GML and Onondaga County Planning Board review, the Onondaga County Planning Board, in its most up-to-date, quotes Onondaga County Planning Board review by action type matrix, states that, quote, interpretations of language by a zoning board of appeals are exempt from Onondaga County Planning Board review. Therefore, this application for interpretation before the zoning board of appeals has been determined by the Onondaga County Planning Board to be exempt from its GML review. A copy of the most up-to-date Onondaga County Planning Board review by action type matrix will be added to the record of this matter. I'll ask Julie to do so. Now, the public hearing in this matter will proceed as follows. First, Director Cantrell, along with Attorney Joe Proteski, wave to the camera, Joe. Welcome to the zoning board, partner at Harris Beach Murtha. Together, Alana will present and explain with exhibits Director Cantrell's March 24th, 2026 determination that is at issue in this case. Then the applicant will have the opportunity to present its case. The applicant may submit documentation and or exhibits in support of its case into the record until the close of the public hearing. Next, anyone from the public who wishes to speak will have the opportunity to be heard. We ask any members of the public wishing to speak to please utilize the sign-in sheet, state your name and address for the record before stating any comments. After the public hearing is closed, pursuant to section 267A of the New York State Town Law, Zoning Board of Appeals shall decide upon an appeal within 62 days following the close of the public hearing. After the public hearing is closed, if no decision is rendered by the Zoning Board of Appeals and the time period for rendering such decision has not expired pursuant to section 192-118 G4B of the DeWitt Town Code, Zoning Board of Appeals shall place this matter on the agenda of its next scheduled regular special meeting. However, nothing shall preclude the Zoning Board of Appeals from taking up 62 days to render a final decision on the applicant's appeal in this matter pursuant to section 267A of the New York State Town Law. Now, as attorney to the Zoning Board of Appeals, I want to make clear for the record that this is a very limited, narrow review by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Zoning Board of Appeals is reviewing the applicant's appeal of the letter determination made by Director Cantrell dated March 24th, 2026 only. And the specific determinations made by Director Cantrell therein pursuant to DeWitt Town Code sections 192-112G, 192-103A, and 192-103E. Any subject matter that is outside of the determinations made by Director Cantrell in her March 24th, 2026 letter, as set forth and explained by Director Cantrell's narrative explanation in the next few minutes, is not within the limited and narrow scope of review of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the purposes of this application for interpretation. I'd also like to note for the record in this matter that as attorney to the Zoning Board of Appeals, I have regularly and continually advised the Zoning Board of Appeals based upon the James A. Coon Technical Series for Zoning Boards of Appeals in New York State, republished by New York State Governor Kathy Hochul and the New York State Department of State in 2024. A copy of such guidance will be added to the record of this matter, and I'll ask Julie to do so. Such guidance informs the Zoning Board of Appeals of the duties, policies, procedures, standards, and all other rules and regulations that apply to it in regard to applicant requests for area variances, use variances, special use permits, and interpretations. and ensures that the zoning board of appeals is reviewing all applications before it, in strict accordance with well-established and expert level guidance directly from the highest levels in New York State. Further, I regularly and continually advised and educated the zoning board of appeals on the arbitrary and capricious standard of review, which is widely and commonly known and understood as the requirement for a zoning board of appeals in New York State in regard to its decision in any given matter to make a rational determination based upon a substantial record of evidence. Now, we'll start with Director Cantrell's narrative explanation of the termination letter dated March 24th, 2026. That's the sole subject of these appeal proceedings. Go ahead. Yep. Quite the introduction for you, Ilana.
The ZBA is here today to review my March 24th, 2026 interpretation related to the former top site on East Genesee Street. As the Director of Planning and Development, my job is to determine which uses are allowed pursuant to the code. As the ZBA, if a determination is made by me and challenged, it is your job to review my determination. My determination should be upheld by you if my determination had a rational basis. So the site in question is made up of 6 individual tax map parcels. You can see them with the orange lines there are the tax map parcels. Of note, the tax map parcel identified as 060.06-04.1 contains the building. The remainder of the parcels contain the parking to support the building parcel. Several exhibits to go. It shows very fancy artwork. So the red circle there is the building parcel, and the blue is showing the 5 lots that make up the parking lot. So I'm just going to give you a brief summary of the historical zoning of the property. The town board adopted a 1967 zoning map. Per the 1967 zoning map, it appears that all 6 parcels were primarily zoned business transitional. The 1967 zoning map does not show individual parcels. So you see that little red circle down there?
Good, zoom on that. Yeah.
In 1979, the owner of the site requested a parking space count area variance from 175 spaces to 140 spaces, and a specific permit for 7 parking spaces to be located in the residential R2 zoned portion of the site. The zoning board approved the area variance, reducing the number of parking spaces, but it denied the specific permit request for 7 parking spaces to be located in R2 lands.
Looking at the
That
variance.
was
I'm sorry, which
Exhibit 1.
Yeah.
So that was the residential portion where the mouse is. The town board adopted a 1989 zoning map on October 23rd, 1989. The 1989 zoning map consists of detailed sections showing the zoning of all parcels within the town. The 1989 map is the earliest map we found that shows individual parcel data for the town. Section 60 of the zoning map contains the site. You can see for the first time on a zoning map, we're seeing actual parcels. Of note, 2 of the 6 parcels, tax map parcels 060.06-01.1 and 060.06-01.2 are now shown as being zoned R2. A further note, the notes on the bottom of the relevant zoning map section show that these parcels were administratively added to the zoning map in 1985. You can see where it says added parcels 01.1 and 01.2.
Interesting.
The town board adopted a 2002 zoning map. The cover of the 2002 zoning map signed by the town supervisor and town clerk notes that this map supplanted the 1967, 1984, and 1989 zoning maps. Section 60 of the zoning map contains the parcels. This is 2002. Town board adopted a 2008 zoning map. The cover of the 2008 zoning map signed by the town supervisor and town clerk notes that this map supplanted the 1967, 1984, 1989, and 2002 zoning maps. Section 60 of the zoning map contains the parcels.
Oh, wow. Oh, there you go.
So it's still showing the pink is BT and the greenish color is RT.
Where's 0.1 and 0.2?
For the two greenish color along the bottom.
Got it.
Thank you.
Those are residential too.
RT, yeah, residential. So in December 2025, the town received a building permit application related to the property from Widewaters to operate a Goodwill store. On January 8th, 2026, the code enforcement officer issued a determination that the project required site plan approval. Widewaters submitted an initial site plan application on February 12th, 2026. The concept meeting was held by the town planning board on February 26th, 2026. Of note, during the concept meeting, Widewaters stated that the taps closed in April 2025. I was also generally aware of this given my familiarity and observations of the site. A number of no parking signs, at least four, were also placed around the site.
What date were the photos taken?
These were all taken the other day.
There was one that was taken.
There was
several
one in
months
December.
ago.
I think there was one in December last year. I think these are at all the entrances to the lot.
We can redo the text. So it's no parking on unauthorized vehicles will be towed away at vehicle owner's expense. On March 24th, 2026, I rendered the following determinations. Determination number 1. The pre-existing non-conforming use for parking on the R2 parcels had been abandoned. Town Code sections 192.30 and 192.31 denote the uses allowed as of right and with a site plan or permit within an R2 district. The use of commercial parking on these parcels constitutes a pre-existing non-conforming use. Simplest terms possible, a non-conforming use is a land use that at one time in the past was lawful, but then a change to the code or zoning map renders the use no longer lawful, but the use is allowed to continue until abandoned. The term grandfathered in is often used to describe a pre-existing use. As a matter of good planning, the town board has created a mechanism to phase out pre-existing non-conforming uses through an abandonment process. This keeps the town on track to ultimately see its vision of the most recently adopted zoning map come to fruition. Town Code Section 192-112G speaks to the abandonment of a pre-existing non-conforming use. Develop this to you. When the active operation of a non-conforming use is discontinued or abandoned for a period of 6 consecutive months, regardless of any intent to resume or not to abandon the use shall not be reestablished or resumed. The active operation of the use shall be the typical or normal activities associated with the use. For the purposes of this section, the following circumstances, which shall not be exclusive, shall contribute toward evidence of discontinuance or abandonment of the use. A. Failure to maintain regular business hours typical or normal for the use. Past operations of the use and or industry standards may be used to determine typical or normal hours. Or B. Failure to maintain equipment, supplies, or stock in trade, which would be used for the active operation of the use. Or C. Failure to maintain utilities, which would be used for the active operation of the use. Or D. Failure to pay taxes, including but not limited to sales tax, workers' compensation taxes, property taxes, corporate taxes, etc., that would be required for the active operation of the use. Or E. Failure to maintain required local, state, or federal licenses or other approvals that would be required for the active operation of the use. Based upon the admissions made by Widewater's February 26th meeting that TOPS closed in April 2025, as well as my own observations of the property, I determined the use of commercial parking on the R2 parcels became a pre-existing non-conforming use following the adoption of the 1989 zoning map. Use of commercial parking on the R2 parcels has been abandoned because the active operation of the parking use was abandoned with the closing of TOPS as the typical or normal parking activities ceased for 6 or more months. The store at the site was no longer maintaining any business hours to support the active operation of the parking use for 6 months or more. The store at the site was no longer maintaining equipment, supplies, or stock in trade to support the active operation of the parking use for 6 months or more. And the fact that the applicants actively prohibited the use of the R2 parcels for parking through the posting of no parking signs further confirms the use was abandoned. It should be noted that the applicant couldn't reestablish the pre-existing non-conforming use at any time between April 2025 and November 2025, however they chose not to. Termination number 2. The pre-existing non-conforming use for 100% off-site parking had been abandoned. Town Code Section 192-103 speaks to the town's off-site parking restrictions. Location of required parking. A parking area or lot shall be located on the same lot as the building, structure, or use to which the spaces are accessory. Code also allows 50% of parking to be off-site with planning board approval, which has not been obtained. As discussed previously, the building parcel only contains the building and does not contain the parking for the site. You guys need to see that back again. Therefore, 100% of the parking for the site constitutes off-site parking. In 2008, the town board made sweeping changes to the code. Included in the new 2008 code was section 192-103E1, which currently states that up to 50% of the parking spaces could be located off-site as approved by the planning board if certain factors were met. Prior to the law coming into effect, upon information and belief, off-site parking was permitted to be approved without restriction at the discretion of the planning board. Based upon the above, the 100% off-site parking arrangement is a pre-existing non-conforming use because it was lawful until the code changed in 2008. Based upon the admissions made by Widewaters at the February 26th meeting that TOPS closed in April 2025, as well as my own observations of the property, I determined the off-site parking use had been abandoned because the active operation of the off-site parking use was abandoned with the closing of TOPS as the typical or normal parking activities ceased for 6 or more months. The store at the property was no longer maintaining any business hours to support the active operation of the off-site parking use for 6 months or more. The store at the property was no longer maintaining equipment, supplies, or stock in trade to support the active operation of the off-site parking use for 6 months or more. And the fact that the applicants actively prohibited the parking use throughout the lot by posting no parking signs further confirms this use was abandoned. It should be noted again that the applicant could have reestablished a pre-existing non-conforming use at any time between April 2025 and November 2025, however, they chose not to.
Good.
Done.
Thank you for that.
You don't mind if I stay seated there? Same, but, thank you. I'd like to recognize Kathleen Bennett. She's online for hearing remotely.
Yeah, and I'll be there in about 5 minutes. But go ahead, Marco.
Okay.
Want us to wait for 5 minutes for Kathy to get here?
No, thank you. I can get started.
Okay.
First of all, the two maps that Ilana put up on the board, those are not the zoning maps. Those aren't the zoning maps.
What maps?
The two maps you put up there, the first and the second map, those are not
They
the
have
zoning.
67
maps.
and the 89?
No, the 89 maps and the 2002 map. Those were not the maps. Okay, I can produce for you the 89 map and the 2000 map. Those are not the maps. So, okay. Some of this is subject, did I say something funny?
No,
Oh, okay.
I'm just waiting for you to go ahead with your presentation there, Marco.
Thank you. Parcels 1.1 and 1.2 are subject to a proceeding. Okay. And which may make all of this moot. I don't know. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But let me just say that under the 67 map, 1.1 and 1.2 were zoned BT. I think we can all agree on that.
They weren't 1.1 and 1.2 back then.
They weren't exactly. They were all just 0.1, right?
Just shade on the map, yeah.
They were all one. These two pieces right here, which are the subject of this interpretation, right here, were all one piece.
Until 1989, correct.
Is it just that the zoning map doesn't identify separate parcels, or that those separate parcels did not exist at all? Because the zoning map doesn't have the parcels delineated for any property in the town.
For 1967, correct.
Right, but is that not the one?
I don't understand what you said.
One of the zoning maps doesn't have any tax map parcels identified.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that back originally, these two pieces were one. They were one. See, that's one piece.
What is that?
It's a former map.
Okay.
Okay. So there's no evidence in the record, none, that the town properly rezoned. I can't name. That it properly rezoned these two pieces from B2 to R2.
The 2008 zoning map, Marco.
I don't care about your zoning.
89.
I don't care about your zoning.
That's how you change your zoning map.
No, you don't. You
You're gonna
don't.
tell us how to change the zoning maps?
Yes, I am.
Okay, let's
Okay.
hear that.
What you have to do is identify the parcels and give notice to the property owner. That's never been provided. Zoning changes do not take effect by changing the colors. Is there something funny, Matt?
I'm just sitting here, Marco. I'm not looking to fight with you. What is your deal?
You're shit eating grin. That's
I'm
what.
just sitting here, Marco.
Okay.
Enough.
So,
Don't swear in front of our board, please. We're in a public hearing here. Please keep it kind of respectful.
okay, I'm sorry for that. So the incorrect designation in 89 was carried forward. All subsequent maps. Okay, and in 89, this was a Scrivener's error or inadvertent mistake. That's what happened here. So there's no evidence in the record that any of this was properly rezoned. The site had site plan approval. In this town gave it multiple site plan approvals. Do you have a question?
Just sitting here, Marco.
Okay.
Please. Enough.
And part of the original approval was a variance. Okay, now, we all know variances run with the land. Okay. There's nothing that can be done to upset that variance. That variance will survive any zone change, assuming the zone change was done. And the use under the zone, under that variance, was not conditioned to a particular use. It was, there were 8 or 9 conditions to that easement. And none of them included it to the extent it's not part of the record. There you go.
That's the variance for that.
So, 1, wasn't properly rezoned. 2, he had a variance that runs with the land that survives any rezone. Assuming one's
What's the
done.
variance for?
Ilana made reference to it.
Parking space.
Parking space reduction, okay. Just asking.
Now, all that aside, the parking was never. Okay, yes, there were signs put up. But we actually parked them in association with the building. I think there's my affidavit and there's the affidavit of Joseph Scuderi. Okay, which I think reestablishes or establishes the continuity of that use.
What were the hours of operation? April to November.
I beg your pardon,
What
sorry,
were the hours of operation from April to November
operation of the parking lot?
of the business? Isn't that what the standards?
No, see, the building is conform. Building's conform.
But you said it wasn't abandoned.
The parking wasn't abandoned. The parking wasn't abandoned.
Was it a private parking lot or a public park?
It's private.
It wasn't held out as a public parking space for any particular retail use or any use or any ancillary use.
It's being used as public right now.
There's no parking signs up.
In
Talking
violation,
about.
in violation of the.
There's no parking signs up.
People park there.
Public parking?
People park there.
That's quite an argument.
People park there.
I'm surprised you haven't gone past.
I drive by it all the
past every
time.
single
People
day.
park
And you
there.
don't look.
I drive past every single day, Marco. I've lived here my whole life.
Okay.
But the use of the parking has to run with the business.
That's what it was used by me
But the
and
business
Joseph.
isn't in operation yet.
It doesn't
It's
matter.
not being used as it normally
It's not
typically
being
be.
used as it normally.
It doesn't matter.
Well,
Because
you
it's a
said- you just said it
conforming
does
use.
matter.
It's a conforming use. The building is conforming.
We're not talking about the building use.
We're talking about the parking.
We're talking about the non-conforming use.
The non-conforming use runs with the building. Hours and operations.
Joseph Scuderi and myself use the parking lot for purposes of the building.
Like, but it wasn't being used as tops anymore. So what?
No, it wasn't. But it's still a retail.
In what way is it a retail store right now?
Not operating.
It's not operating as anything.
So it has no use. Is that what you're saying? It has no use.
Saying it's not being used the way that it was being used for purposes of.
It doesn't matter. It still has a use. That use is a retail use. It doesn't have to be operating. And I don't think that was one of Ilana's comments, was it? Was that one of your determinations? I don't think it was.
Failure, I said failure to maintain regular business hours typical or normal for the use, past operations of the use and or industry standards may be used to determine typical or normal hours.
For the park.
Yes.
There you go.
I'm still confused. What were the hours of operation? Was it 24/7?
Of the building,
Of the parking? What were the hours of operation?
24/7. But that's not what Alana's determination said.
Well, that was one item.
What was the variance for? Let me just say, I think I understood the variance was to reduce the parking spaces required to operate a retail store.
Correct.
That didn't change the, whether or not parking was allowed where it typically would in a zoning code. Meaning under those the variance didn't permit parking in the residential spaces, it just said you don't need as many parking spots to operate retail store.
Actually, they said too, you can't park in the residential space.
Well, even if those zones are those parking spots there, so what is the variance that ran with the land is only that should retail use continue and not be.
Well, run the land is the number of spaces, so
That's
there's
what I'm trying to get to.
140 spaces.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what runs with the land.
That
variance covered the whole parking.
But it just said that the store could operate with less spots than typically be required, is the one,
It doesn't
right?
say you have a variance to park in the residential 2 lots.
Let me,
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
But that application, if you read that application and read what the county says about that application and read what the town said about that application, the only part of this lot that was zoned, that it viewed being zoned R2 was this.
Yeah, but the variance was only to use less, it was only
Right,
to
but
require less parking.
But my point is with respect to the R2, none of the rest of this is R2 because it was never properly rezoned. And the map that Marco was referring to, I think was a tax map. So those parcels weren't added to the town of DeWitt zoning map. Those parcels were added to the county tax maps in 1985 that the town then used when it created its 1989 zoning map.
Let me ask you a basic question. Do you have to separate zoning uses by tax map parcel number?
You're supposed to, when you rezone, you're supposed to identify the parcels specifically, either
They
by
have to-
tax map parcel or by meets and bound description of whatever larger area.
Not recorded map doesn't count?
No, because you have to provide notice to the
Well,
owner that you're
That
changing.
wasn't really my, and I appreciate, that wasn't my question really. I think the variance though was only to permit a retail use with less parking than would typically be required. It wasn't to recognize parking in other zones, right?
Oh, yes, because.
It's right here in front of me. It's. I mean, you can, maybe you can find that spot.
Well, you know, maybe if you have this, could you put up the, please, the, site plan?
From 1979, from the variance application.
The one with the X's,
The blue one.
The board,
Yeah.
the board wants me to.
Yeah.
I think this will answer your question. So. The variance included all of this. Including the 2 pieces that you allegedly or Lana allegedly in her determination says that are R2.
Yes, the property was the subject of the variance, but the variance didn't grant the right of the owner to use the spaces for anything different than the zone recognized. It was only to reduce the parking required for the retail use.
Where, on what properties, on what lands?
That land right there.
And that's what we're saying.
Once the zoning changes, Marco.
Yeah, I have a different understanding of the
You're
variance.
parking on the R2 zones. That's what's going on here.
I'm not confused on this. This is, the variance was only to reduce the parking. So that's the only thing, the parking that was required.
Including the 2 residential parcels.
That's not what the variance says, though. The variance is for a parking count.
That's right.
It specifically says you cannot park at residential parcels. But
Right, which it identified
I know.
as this area of the site only.
And then the zoning,
Not any of the rest of
and then
it.
the zoning map changed.
But the zoning map does not change the
That
zoning.
use was banned.
It makes it non-conforming parking on those R2 parcels.
The zoning map does not change the zoning of the specific parcels. There had to be an ordinance that did it specifically.
So your argument is that the zoning, the town of
produced by the
DeWitt
town.
never actually produced adequate maps that are rezoned in 1989 and 2002
Maps
and 2008?
do not rezone alone.
So your
You have
contention-
to identify specific parcels and provide the owner of those parcels notice that they're being rezoned.
So under your theory, 1967 zoning map is still the zoning map of the town of DeWitt.
What
Is that
I'm saying
hearing
is
right now?
that the 1967 zoning map is that identifies this area of the property as business transitional is what's still applicable because these lots were never, when they were created, weren't rezoned.
Well, the rest of the town is just all wrong, right? It's all the town is
don't-
wrong. All the new zones don't exist.
Can I speak, please, and can you stop speaking
I'm
over
asking
me
you a
because
question.
you asked us to be polite and I'm trying to answer, okay?
In voice, I'm just asking you questions.
Because you're interrupting while I am trying to provide an answer. You want to be civil, I'll be civil. You want to interact this way, Matt, we can interact this way.
Well, let's start with civil. and
Okay,
then we'll
let's go
from there.
back to civil and please,
Okay.
let me speak and explain, okay?
I'm all ears.
So my point is that when these two parcels were created, 1.1 and 1.2, they were created in 1985 on the county tax maps.
They were created.
They were created
And I-
apparently by the county, on the county tax maps in 1985. Those tax maps were what the town relied on in 1989. Used those tax maps. And for some reason, when it went to those tax maps, right, the shading, I don't know, came across the line. I have no explanation for it. But there is no ordinance that has been provided or identified despite a specific request by an Onondaga County Supreme Court justice that will show parcels 1.1 and 1.2 were ever rezoned from business transitional to residential 2. And what I'm saying is that you can't do that by a map alone. There has to be an ordinance that identifies those parcels that gives the owner notice of that zone change so that they can come in and either say, we support it, we don't support it, so that they have an opportunity to be heard on something that impacts their property. That wasn't done. So you can't modify zoning on a parcel just by adopting a new map. Now, I don't know what impact that has on the rest of the town, Matt. I don't. I haven't looked at it.
Well, the
I
whole
have
zoning
no
map
idea.
has changed a lot, so that would be really odd if.
I have no idea
if that
what
argument
happened to the
worked.
rest of the town,
It would be odd.
whether things changed, how they were changed, but I can tell you, if you're changing the zone, you need to identify the parcels, provide the owner with notice and an opportunity to be heard. So
Okay.
that's my argument.
And all I'm saying is that, let's assume for the sake of argument, that you did rezone those parcels properly.
It's just a fact, but go ahead.
So let's assume for the sake of argument that you rezoned those parcels properly. The variance trumps the rezone. That's all I'm saying. And that's all I'm gonna say about it.
You can have 140 spots there to this day. To this day, you can still have 140 spots to support your retail use around with the land. Right,
You agree with that?
140 spots.
Okay,
That's the variance.
okay.
Okay.
I'd like to go back to abandonment for a second. So the standard is we look at regular business hours, we look at maintenance of equipment, maintenance of utilities, right? Do we all agree that that's the standard from the code?
With respect to the parking use, not with respect to the retail use.
Okay, so even with just a big park, except that is like. What equipment, supplies, or stock and trade continued over that 6-month period?
Parking. People continue to park there.
Okay, so was there asphalt applied? Were there striping that was done? Even if we just focus on parking, what did you do to continue to maintain this parking? Pairs?
To plow it,
We plowed
it was plowed in the winter.
Can you give us receipts for that effect?
Yeah.
What about utilities?
The parking has, the parking lot has site lighting,
And those were maintained during the same period?
yes. Taxes were paid. On those 5 parcels, taxes were paid.
But we're not just talking about them.
Well, they are, I mean,
Right, but we are, I mean, what's been presented by Alana is that it's more than just the parking.
Non-conforming use. Not keep up, right, they don't want to go out.
well, that's what I'm asking.
That's what I wanna say.
That's what I'm asking. So setting aside parking, let's do the building. So is the building open?
It doesn't matter.
That's not what I asked you.
No, no, no,
Okay. Were there stock and trade?
no,
None of that was maintained.
No.
inside? So the building was closed for 6 months?
yes.
Or accessories, oh.
Understood. Thank you.
Well, parking, off-site parking is permitted in business transitional zones.
With approval of the planning board.
Up to 50.
Off-site parking is this, in the zoning code, it's identified as a permitted use.
Yes, when you look at the parking regulations, it's with all of this planning board.
It's up to 50% too, so that
This
code
site had
changed.
planning board.
Did that code change probably?
It had planning board.
For off-site parking after the code changed in 2008.
It had planning board approval.
Planning board doesn't have the ability to
It
off-site
had,
parking over 50%.
it had approval per the variance.
Just said.
To various to reduce the parking lot.
Did you charge anyone for parking during that time period?
No parking.
It says
Or
no
no park
parking.
there at all, so they're not charging.
It was off-site
No
parking. It was used as off-site parking for what site? It's
For
off-site
the
parking,
building.
the closed building.
No approval attached, just the closed building.
No approval.
Right, the building wasn't operating. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know what time frame you're referring to.
During the 6-month period where the building was closed. You said you used the parking lot for parking off-site. What was the site that you were parking off from? What was the parking? Where were you parking?
I was parking there.
You were
And
looking
Joe
at your
Scuderi-
affidavit.
Joe Scuderi was parking. Went into the building.
The typical use would be for the public to park there to access tops, where any public.
I'm a member of the public.
We're in general public, besides
I'm a
you
member
own
of the general
you own the
public.
property.
I'm a member of the general public.
But I mean other members of the general public that don't work for you, that don't work for Wetwaters.
No.
Is that because of the signs you think that there was no parking signs?
Look
That
at,
contributed?
look at man, you can drive by there any time of day or night.
Every day I do.
No, you don't.
Every day I do.
Okay, then you're blind because
Okay.
that parking lot is full.
People park there.
It's full, okay.
I drive by it a lot because my son goes to Manly's Pebble Hill and I take that route and people park there a lot.
I haven't seen anyone parking in the back there about the two zone, but.
People park generally
People
like
Mario's,
here and along here.
Never seen parking.
I've never seen anyone park in the restaurant until once. Then I do the whole time.
I can show you pictures.
So then,
I can show you, because on a Friday night. Parking is out to here. This is awful.
I've never seen that and I live right there.
I don't care what you saw. I have pictures.
Okay. Then submit them.
is there any other parts of the argument? Says the town didn't properly rezone the town. What else?
Yeah, I'm not even gonna justify it. I don't know why we need the extra comments.
Just trying to move it along here.
Well. I got one that's probably not. Relevant, but. You know. Let me share some. Look.
No idea.
This aerial shows parking. We're not gonna expand the parking lot. We're not gonna build a building on the parking lot. We're not gonna change anything at all. Nothing changes. It remains the same. It remains the status quo. It will forever. So what is everybody complaining about?
Any public comment?
You just say.
You don't have to comment, by the way, I'm just asking.
I'm tempted.
Can you tell us your
If you
name?
do, just say your name.
Yeah.
My name's Howard Brodsky. I live in Shire. I'm hearing distance, the tops site. And I walk by there regularly. I live within the 500 feet of whatever it is. Legally, you set down.
Sorry, can you speak up?
Okay. I disagree with a lot of things I heard tonight. Trying to figure out how to respond, so that's my part of my hesitancy. The parking is basically trespassing, the people that park there now. And that's what I park there, when I go get pizza. Or the dark horse, or something like that. And the building has been shut down, once they remove the shelving and furniture and stuff like that, and they turn off the lights, there's been no activity. I walk by there every day. With my dog, we made a deposit there today, which goes up. Anyway, the site has not been documented adequately in terms of site plan material, anything to inspect, and to argue over the accuracy of the details. That needs to be done. I urge you to get it done. That's the only way you can get straight answers on stuff. You're talking about building use and parking, and there's a mishmash of property lines in there that go way back to the 1980s. The reason I know that is because I was serving on the planning board staff in the county planning board in the 1980s and reviewed this site at that time. And it was a mess. And the 1967 zoning map was the only map available at the time because there were no tax maps. They did not exist for anybody.
Yes, they did.
I was in the planning office. We were making the tax maps there. They were being generated. In 1974, I was making maps based upon air photography just so we could do land use surveys.
I disagree with that.
But fine. Some towns have tax maps. You'd have to prove what year the tax map was. It may have been one of the early maps. I'll grant you that. Okay. But the zoning map is not based upon a tax map. Zoning map's based upon the engineers or whoever drafts the town zoning map. It's based upon meets and bounds. Meets and bounds are based upon the center line treatment in the 1960s because they had no universal tax maps available in most of the towns. So some of the premises of their argument is not verified, at the very least. Correct. Haven't verified. I think it's wrong from what they're trying to assert. Because when a town does a townwide rezoning, which in the planning agency that I worked at, we would advocate for, they would do it by meets and bounds. To do it was notorious for doing it based upon the center line of the highway. And that's why you have so many split zone properties along East Genesee Street, including the site. So it was based upon where the road was and where you drew 500 feet or 1,000 feet or whatever measure. So that argument falls flat as far as I'm concerned. The site can only be developed, as I see it, by having a reasonably accurate existing conditions site plan. That takes into account that after PNC was developed and built and existed for several years, the county came in afterwards and widened the road and changed the configuration of that property on Jamesville Avenue. Jamesville Road, sorry. So there are things that happen outside of their control, admittedly, that change the character of the site. sometimes slightly, but it changed the character. That needs to be brought up to date. They're saying they're making no changes, that may be so. They need to document what exists and show that there are no changes going on in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brodsky. Anybody on Zoom would like to speak? Sounds like no. Board?
I know.
You want to close the public hearing, you can do it by motion.
I make a motion to close the public hearing if anyone, as you know, if nobody else has questions.
Well, did you want me to submit photographs?
You can submit them if you want to.
Oh, I don't have them with me.
It's too late then.
Okay, I don't care. You're the one that wanted them.
You brought them up. You don't want them. I'll second motion by Kelly to close the public hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Josh. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried. Now that the public hearing is closed, the zoning board of appeals has 62 days from the close from today to render a determination in this matter. Thank you for coming in. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Close the meeting.
Yeah. I'll make a motion
Motion to adjourn.
to adjourn. I just need to know how to put this on.
Seconded by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Jamie.
Opposed, abstained, motion's carried.
So, the movie not gonna go to. Let's do something else.